Robert Plank Show episode 007. How to run a webinar to multiply your income and profits. This is DJ Dave, and I want to welcome you to the Robert Plank Show. Before we bring out the man, the myth, the legend, Robert Plank, I want you to make sure to close down any distractions, find a quiet area, and get ready to use webinars to create information products you can sell over and over. How to use webinars to get more traffic, increase your list size, and make more sales over and over. If you're looking for someone who's run thousands of webinars and earned millions of dollars from webinars, then look no further than today's expert presenter, Robert Plank.
Awesome. Thanks for that nice introduction, Mr. DJ Dave. You heard right. We're going to be talking about how to run these crazy things called webinars. This is something that I really owe a big boost to my income to. It's something I've been doing for several years. At the time we're recording this, I think, almost 4 years now, actually over 4 years now. And so a webinar is what we call a web seminar, and it just means that you are presenting something to someone streaming over the internet live. And what I'm going to be talking about with you today is using a webinar with a service called GoToWebinar. And this is where you don't share your web camera. You don't show your face. You show your computer screen. And then you speak out your voice like I'm doing to you now, only it's 100% live. It's right there on the spot. And I know there are other services like you might have seen like a Ustream stream or a Google Plus Hangout or like a Adobe or a Microsoft or a live meeting. We're not going to even bother with that. We're talking about this thing called a webinar, a GoToWebinar. And so you can do like an online meeting where everyone's equal and everyone can talk, but in a webinar, you are the only person who is unmuted. And it ends up being a really, really cool way to sell more products, to make products, and just to in any way generate content. Because what you can do is bring several people onto this live webinar, and these are called your attendees, and then you are the presenter. And they can ask questions. They can type questions in the question box. I don't unmute people on webinars, but your attendees can type questions in the question box while you bring up a presentation. So most of the time, we're presenting a PowerPoint presentation. So we're showing our screen, we're showing bullet points, we're showing graphs, pictures, things like that. But we can show anything on our screen. We can bring up a browser window, we can demonstrate a piece of software, we can draw on the screen. And so just to keep things simple, let's just say that we're demonstrating something. Let's just say that you are running a 1-hour webinar on how to secure a WordPress blog. That's a pretty hot topic right now. And so you could have a 1-hour webinar where you're showing 4 different ways to lock down a WordPress website using free plugins. And so you can be presenting this, you have your PowerPoint presented, and every few minutes you exit out of that PowerPoint and drag your browser window onto the screen. You do this and that with WordPress, and you show people how to get something accomplished, how to solve a problem. And so what you might end up doing is every now and then glancing over at that question box. If someone has an answer, maybe you work into the questions, maybe not. If someone needs something to be repeated, you can repeat that. But you're spending this 1 hour just showing 4 different ways to lock down a WordPress blog. And so you might kind of need to pause for a second. If you need to do something off screen, like fix a password, you might end up clicking on the wrong screen. You might say, that's okay. And the reason is because this is, for me at least, a way to get myself to become a better speaker, a better presenter. And I keep telling myself that if I'm showing someone how to secure a WordPress blog in person at an offline seminar, a conference, an event, then there's no do-over, there's no pausing, it's just live anyway. So by doing this live, okay, why would we do this live? Well, for a couple of reasons. Because first of all, you actually just get it done. Okay, we're going to be talking about how to use a webinar for pitches, so to sell things, to create like a one-off product, so to create like a 1-hour video course, how to create a multi-week class as well. And so when we want to sit down and make a 1 hour video, well, we can schedule it here and there, or we might put it off till later. If you do it live, if people are there live, then you are letting those people down if you don't show up. If you don't finish, there's no stopping and doing it later. You just have to get it done. And it's really awesome because if these people follow along with you, then even better, they get results as well. So we're doing, in this example, a 1 hour webinar showing people how to secure a WordPress blog. We're using a service called GoToWebinar. And by the way, I can hook you up with a free account by going to webinarcrusher.com. That's WEBINARCRUSHER.com. So this is a pretty much a service where you can schedule a webinar. So you say that I want to schedule a webinar on this specific upcoming time and date. The way I like to do it is I schedule it at the top of the hour, so like at a round number, like a 2 p.m. or a 3 p.m. I like to schedule them in the middle of the week, and that's just because I've talked to my subscribers, I've asked them what day is best, what time is best, and at least for me, my subscribers prefer Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and most of them actually tell time in Eastern time as well. Even though I don't live in Eastern time zone, they do. That's how I tell time with them. I schedule this webinar session using GoToWebinar, and GoToWebinar generates what's called a registration link. So maybe if you've attended a webinar in the past, there's a link to click on that says like gotomeeting.com and a bunch of numbers at the end. People click on this and they fill in their first name, last name, and email address. Now they are registered for the webinar, and then when that Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern rolls around, a few minutes before, you start the webinar up, and they can come and join, and then they can see your computer screen, or at least the part of your screen you want to show them, and when you start talking, then they can hear your voice. So what you run GoToWebinar, and in addition, we use a special tool called Camtasia Studio. All right, Camtasia Studio. This is $300. It comes with a 30-day free trial. And this is a super valuable tool because it will allow you to record your webinar session. So this means that when you are helping people out and showing them this 1 hour training, if someone misses the call or they miss part of it or you just want to reuse it, now you have a recording, you have a replay. But you know what? We use words like recording and replay. That's kind of boring. Let's just say that you're now recording a product. So a really good business model that my friend Lance Tomashiro used to use when he first got started was he would have a small audience, an email subscriber list, and he would say, well, at 2 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to be showing you how to set up an opt-in page. All right, how to do this list building thing. And it's going to be at this time, this date. Here's a link to register. Show up, it's free. And he might get even just like 10 or 20 people, and he would run this thing live for the same reason that some TV shows film in front of a live audience, because the energy's there, the audience kind of adds a little bit to it, and of course we can't hear the cheers on a webinar, but if someone has an important question that fits in with what he's saying, he can work it in. Now, obviously, if someone just comes in and starts typing in a bunch of nonsense questions, well, he's not going to ignore that. Important distinction is that as the presenter of the webinar, you are the only person who can see the questions that are typed in. So this is really important because people can't chat back and forth. You are the presenter. It's just like when you're on stage at an event, you are the person on stage presenting this webinar. So let's talk about this example once again, the 1 hour webinar on the 4 ways to secure your WordPress blog. So, what's really the point of this webinar? Well, we said that, Lance might use it to create a product. He'd record it online for free, and then later on package it into a product. So this is what ends up being really cool about a webinar is that, let's just skip ahead to that part. Okay, you can use a webinar to record a product. I definitely would say that if you're using a webinar to record a product, do your best to keep it at about a 1 hour length. Don't use a script because like when I'm talking to you right now, I have a basic idea of what I'm going to talk about. I have a couple of bullet points I'm working off of, but on the large part, I'm just talking off the cuff. And the reason for that is because if you're going to script out every single freaking word you say, you might as well just write something down. There's no time for that. You need to get to a point where you're at least a decent speaker. I mean, some of us aren't going to be like world-class speakers, but you should be able to string a sentence together, speak from the heart, and present something to a group of people in the same way you present it one-on-one. What would really help is if you just make it a point to run at least one webinar a month, minimum. And this might be a free webinar, like we've been saying. It might be a paid webinar. So what worked well for me early on is I would sell what we call an ebook, right? A PDF report, things like how to write a sales letter, how to set up a WordPress blog, how to add these things to your sales letter, that kind of thing. And if I wanted to maybe update that training or create a bonus, then I would email just my buyers, and I would say, well, about a week from today, on this exact date, this exact time, we're going to do a bonus session. So send in your questions if you have them ahead of time. We're going to be showing you this, this, and this. It complements the product very well. And then that's pretty much my plan. Then I would show up and I would present what I was going to present. And within that hour, I might kind of glance at the question marks here and there. If someone had something important to say, obviously, I'm not going to read off every single person's name or every single person's question. But if their question fits, I'll work it into my training, record it, and now it makes a nice little bonus. So that's a really good way to create an information product, a video product, is to run a live webinar session, get even just a handful of people to show up. If it's your buyers, even better, record it, and now you have a video that you can place inside of a members area or on a download page, and that is that. So now let's get into kind of the scary area of webinars, which is what's called a pitch webinar. This is where you run a free live event, and by event I mean an online 1-hour webinar, and at the end you sell something. And I know a lot of people they act like they hate it, but in reality I think they're just scared. It might just be my opinion, but I think they're just scared. I think they're just lacking confidence, and there's a lot of just really gross generalizations that go into play. And here's what I mean, is that people say, oh, you know what, I don't like attending webinars, I don't want to run a webinar, all they try to do is sell you something. And you know what, you're right, they do try to sell you something, but if they do a good job, they earn the right to sell you something. And the same kind of thinking for these people goes into play for conferences, for offline events. Oh, you know what, I don't like to go to seminars unless it's a no-pitch seminar where no one's allowed to sell me anything. And the problem with that is that if someone gets on stage, talks to you for an hour, for 90 minutes, for 2 hours even, and they teach all this stuff, well, there's only so much someone can teach you in an hour or on stage. And so if I'm telling you about sales letters, how to do all this copywriting, and at the end I just say, okay, great, bye, well then I'm what we call is I'm doing you a disservice, because I kind of gave you a little bit, but not enough to go out and do anything. I'm not giving you a complete course. I'm just kind of giving you what I can in an hour. So what we do, if you're doing your job right, is you give people some information, but then at the end you say, well, here's how to get more of the same from me. Right? And to use a term I really don't like, here's some continuing education. Okay, so, and what ends up happening is I've been to a couple of these no-pitch events. I've seen some of the recordings of these no-pitch events. And what ends up happening is at the end, every single speaker ends up sharing their website anyway. And some of them actually share a product. Some of them have to say, well, here's my blog, here's my email address, here's my phone number, here's my Twitter username. And so you end up promoting yourself anyway, so why not just present something? And you know what, too, is if you're presenting something on stage or you're presenting something on a webinar and no one buys, well, who cares? I mean, it's not the end of the world if 0 people buy our product. Maybe it's a bad audience, or maybe you just have to do better next time. So I really would like if you could get this whole worrying about a pitch fest idea out of your head and just be a marketer, right? Because we all, even if you're in some other niche, we all have to find a way to be marketers. the webinar students that I'm the most proud of, I have there's a storyboarder, there's a guitar person, there's a carpet cleaner, there are a bunch of health coaches, there are relationships, self-help, PUA people. They're in all these different areas of the internet, and they run these free 1-hour calls. They demonstrate value at the beginning. They title their webinar, How to Blank, How to Do Something, How to Secure Your WordPress Blog from Hackers, right? And because you titled that, well, first of all, now people want to sign up if they want to get this problem solved. You've got a targeted audience. Because you call it how to whatever, you actually have to show a few things. But now that you've demonstrated these 4 easy ways to fix your blog, well, now I have a plugin to sell you that will do all that for you. Now I have a course to show you where you can lock down even more and make your website work even better now that it's fully secured. So there's always a next step, and if not, then you need a better product to sell. But I was talking earlier about teaching a product, right? And so when we use a webinar where someone pays us money up front and then we create a product, it's okay to go a little bit over. It's okay to do a 1-hour, 90-minute, 2-hour webinar. But with a pitch webinar, we have to be a little more careful in the same way that if you've ever created a sales copy, our sales letter, if you ever tried to sell from a web page, you have to kind of go back later and make sure you're really careful with what you say and how you say it. So the translation to this for webinars is when you're running a pitch webinar, limit it to an hour. And if you can even do better and make it like 55 minutes, even better. But you want to be very careful because at the end of that hour, people are going to start dropping off. And now if we're recording a product, that's fine, because people get the recording. But what's great about a pitch webinar is that people are ready to buy. If someone actually goes out of their way to put you in their schedule, remembers to show up, stays for the whole hour, that is a red hot lead. And I mean, I've had many products where I keep emailing, don't get that many sales. I demonstrate a live webinar, and they can hear my voice, they can see me do things live. Now that gets them to buy. I mean, every time I launch or relaunch a product, it's on a pitch webinar. And I've had webinars where I've actually gotten or been able to close over half of that audience on a high ticket product. I think on a $500 product once, we sold over half of the attendees on this. I hate using numbers, but I think it had about 70 people on the call, and over 35 of them bought this $500 package. Now, I've also run webinars with only 10 people in them. I've run webinars with hundreds of people in them, and it just depends on who you can get to show up. About a third of the people who register will actually show up. So if you can, let's just use some math here. If you've built up an email list, if you got a Facebook fan page, if you got joint venture partners who can mail for you, let's just say that if you somehow got 1,000 clicks to go to your webinar registration link, I don't know why, but for some reason, about half of them will actually register. All right. Every time I've done it, it's about 50% opt-in rate. So about 500 people register, and then out of this 500, 1/3 will show up. So what is this end up being? 125 and no 166. So 166 of people will show up. Okay, so once you have 166 people who stay with you, and let's just say there'll be a little bit of a drop off. Let's just say that at the close you have maybe like 130, 120 people. That sounds about right. So now it's up to you on how well you sell them. Thinking back, I would say that on most webinars we have at least $20 per attendee. So that means that the way that it worked out were number of sales, price point of the product. On average, we made about $20 for every person who showed up. So using some of that math, that would be about $2,500 or so running that 1-hour webinar. Now, I'm not claiming or guaranteeing or any of that kind of stuff that you might have those same kinds of results, but you do your best to get people on the call. You demonstrate value, show your product, teach a few things, and at the end transition into what it is that you're selling. Explain, why this product itself is important, and hopefully you've been kind of leading up to that and earning the rapport as you demonstrate this. Show people the pieces of the product, like what are the modules, what are the features, what's the total value. So you total up. So if module 1 is worth $300, if module 2 is worth $300, if this bonus is worth $500, what's the total value? Say like $3,000. But today you pay just $39. And then here's the URL to go to, and then open up your browser and do it with them and tell them to do it right now, and then end the call. Don't go on forever. Just end the call at about an hour and record it. And now you have a replay. So then maybe in a day or two, put that video on a web page and send people to it and see if they buy. And if they don't buy, then maybe the product's not a right fit. Maybe you didn't hit the right hot buttons. But at that point, you adjust. And so, we didn't really have time today to go into the exact webinar selling formula, but you might hear a lot of people saying, oh, what you need to do is do this fake webinar and have it all automated and put up this countdown timer for that. And I really believe that, you do have to get good at selling. I'm not saying I'm the best salesman in the world or anything like that, but there are certain things that you just get good at the more that you do them. And so what you end up doing is figuring out how to make things exciting. Even like we keep saying, WordPress security. That's not exciting. That's geeky. That scares people because they're worried about breaking their site. But if you can say, well, you've tried watching these videos, doing these articles, using these plugins, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. I'm going to make it very simple for you. I'm going to change your way of thinking. I'm going to be like your knight in shining armor and fix your problems. Well, now people are going to love you for that. And you know what, too, is that, I keep saying, if you run this webinar and you don't get as many sales as you want, or no one buys, who cares? You built that relationship with your subscribers. You got better at being a presenter. You had fun. If you did it right, you have your recording, and so pretty much you get on, and for what you want to do is for about 45 minutes out of that hour, that's your teaching part of it, your teaching component. And then the final 15 minutes, that's what we call your pitch, that's what we call your close. And so what we want to do is, in that 45 minutes, build up so much rapport that we don't really have to hard close them or use all these slimy techniques. We might add some things in because it's fun. Doing what we said before, like building up the value and dropping the price, that's so fun. Opening up the web browser and just being proud of what you have to sell and offer, that's fun. So 45 minutes of teaching, 15 minutes of pitch, and that's it. And once I do my best to repeat that URL, send them somewhere at the end about 7 times. So you put it in your exact PowerPoint slide. Now that I've shown you these 4 WordPress tips, here's the product, blah, blah, blah. Go here to wpsecurity.com. You show it on the slide. You say, you'll get this, this, and this. Here's the price. Go ahead and do it right now. And then spell out that URL. Here's wpsecurity.com. Bring open that web browser. Type it in. Scroll to the bottom of the page. Click that order button and say, do it with me. You need to get that WordPress blog secured. Let's do it right now before someone hacks into it. And, even if in the past, if you've tried to do it yourself, you've tried to pay someone to lock down your blog, you've tried to piece together other training, it didn't work, I'm going to get you to do it right, do it fast, and do it in an easy way that you can repeat over and over again. So, 45 minutes of teaching, 15 minutes of close. Now, what the heck is going to be in your webinar presentation? Well, for this, we used an acronym WWHW. What is this? This isn't like what would Jesus do? This is why, what, how to, and what if. Okay? And so these are going to be the different sections of your hour. Now, we said before, 45 minutes teaching, 15 minutes of pitch. So the pitch is the what if. So you've shown them how to fix a WordPress blog. But now, what if you were able to also do this, and this? Now here's the product to do it. So that's going to be your final 15 minutes. Now, we don't want to just jump in and start opening up WordPress and doing all this scary stuff. We have to explain why this is so important, who you are, why they should listen to you, all that good stuff. So let's just say at the beginning, let's limit that to 5 minutes. So let's say you're starting a webinar at 2 p.m. Eastern, from 2 o'clock to 2:05, we don't want to be exact on this, but plan for about 5 minutes, maybe 1 or 2 slides about why WordPress security is so important and why they should listen to you. You don't have to tell them your whole life story. I mean, that's the problem with some presenters is they're 100% pitch. And they spend half the call showing their house, showing their car, explaining their life story. I know, I've seen that too. You don't want to do that. That's what gave webinars and selling a bad name. So 5 minutes on the why. So what does that leave us? That leaves us with 40 minutes in the hour. So that leaves us with 20 minutes for the what, 20 minutes for the how-to. That works pretty nicely. So 5 minutes of the why. Why should they listen to you? Why is this important? 20 minutes of the what. So this could be, what do hackers do to get into a blog? What can you do to solve it, to protect yourself? So we're not showing anything yet. We're going through these PowerPoint slides and just explaining. Give people the 100,000-foot view, right? Give them the big picture so that when you do show this in a few minutes, it will all make sense. And then in there we have 20 minutes where we actually show them this. If you've ever looked at on YouTube, look for this guy named Billy Mays. You've probably heard of him. He's the OxyClean guy, and not the ShamWow, but he does like Zorbies. And so he's dead now, but he was an infomercial salesman, and he got really good at these 2-minute presentations. He'd like mop this thing up, and it would look really cool. And that's kind of what you want to do, the webinar version of that, where you do something live and it's really cool and it's a magic trick, because you can talk all day long, but if you actually show people something, it's awesome. So, I mean, a good example is I have a product called Backup Creator, and what I do on a webinar is I backup and restore a WordPress blog. Pretty cool. If I'm presenting our course on article writing and transcription, I will create an article right there live on the call. So that's the how-to part. So once again, because I know someone's going to want to know this, 1 hour, 5 minutes of the why is this important, 20 minutes of the what do you need to do, 20 minutes of the how-to where you just amaze them, and then this transitions into now, what if you could do this, and this? Well, you're in luck. It's because of my product. Here it is. Go ahead, do it right now. My name is Robert Plank, and thank you, and close that dang webinar. No FAQ session, no Q&A session, no going for 3, 4, 5 hours, 1 hour, and it's done. That's all the information they need to know. If you left things out, fine. Then next week, next month, run a similar webinar to the same audience and present in a better way. Now, I use webinars for everything in my business, even our weekly meetings, but webinars are great also to sell people in this pitch webinar into a 4-week class. So it's one thing to sell people into like a $40 video course. But what if you said, well, for $500, we're going to go through everything there is to know about WordPress. We're going to show you how to set up a WordPress blog, how to generate content, how to get traffic, how to write for others, how to make sales from WordPress, how to get leads from WordPress, a whole complete system. It's a brand new course called this, WordPress copywriting, whatever it is you want to call it. And then you pitch that on a live webinar, and then you just have a membership site where you meet once per week. And every week you post a link to this week's webinar a couple days ahead of time, and then everyone meets, and then you just present what it is you're going to present that week. Have everyone, they can go in and ask questions. It's a little more relaxed because they pay to get in there, and you might, spend a little bit more than an hour presenting each module. At the end, give them an assignment, put the recording in the members area, and now you have a course that you can sell over and over again. So we covered quite a few things in this week's episode called How to Run a Webinar to Multiply Your Income and Profits. You can use a webinar to generate a product because you present something live to an audience, record it, now you have a video, and you can do this even as a weekly class or a one-off, or even do this for free and record your product pitch. Have your 5-minute why, 20-minute what, 20-minute how-to, and 15-minute what if. So DJ Dave wasn't lying at the beginning of this call. He's 100% accurate. I've done thousands of webinars, and I've sold millions of dollars worth of products on different webinars over and over again because it works, because I get better every time I do it, and I have fun everyday time. So you should run webinars too. So you can go ahead right now to webinarcrusher.com. GoToWebinar.com to claim your free GoToWebinar account. We meet with you once a month on a group coaching call to answer your questions, to share the most recent happenings with webinars. You get my webinar opt-in plugin. You get recordings of all my past pitch webinars. You get all my PowerPoint presentations, my webinar training. It's a complete course that's all in WebinarCrusher.com. I hope you enjoyed today's call. That was once again episode 007, How to Run a Webinar to Multiply Your Income and Profits. Go to WebinarCrusher.com, and to get your name mentioned on the Robert Plank Show, just go to RobertPlankShow.com and like us on Facebook, and I'll mention your name, just like I'm mentioning Tertia Papa, Tom Walden, Kenneth Baer, Kaligi Wright, DJ Raindance Rob, Michael Saul, Nat Corom Petrie, Kimberly Wilkes, Bertram Heath Sr., Joanne Beckers, Bert Grimm, Miguel DeJesus, Grover Click, John Hopton, Ken Al, Nancy Johnson, Pat Snow, Judy Reed, Farshid Jalili 1, Philip Occhiolini, James Dunn, Brad Spencer, Susan Parente, Greg Beatty, Mitch Can, Loretta Thomason, Ken Jameson, Jimmy Bearden, Barry McKillop, Nigel Williams, Lawrence Mills, Michael Costello, Warren Hafer, Drew Lawlin, Rito Stuber, Jerry Herring, the Mr. Causi, Kate Curran, Huai Kai, Jason Parker, Michelle Williams, Marcelo Souza, Thomas Miller, Mary Elliott, Alvin Huang, Val Spangler, Jason Waldron, George Downing, Michael Claggett, Harold Glasscock, Jamie Wyatt, John Johnson, Joel Newton, James Stewart, Mir Chand, Annie Lucky, Chandera Malar, Nancy Brown, Cyan Tong, Yua Made, Ernest Simmons, Holly Coleman, Phil Waters, David Lloyd, Ron Perry, Jeff Liptrap, Nick Vass, Brandy Judd, Gerald Johnson, Chris Fogiri, Dr. Wiegand, Chris Lockwood, Scott Remfrey, Brad Costanzo, Phyllis McClintock, Deepak Saroff, Karen Nutritionist, Gary Moore, Mario Javensky, Craig Stadler, Chris Moose, Tom Leonard, Sharon Donnelly, Neil Fryer, Jen Gates, Anatoly Toka, Anne Lecompte, Stephen Lai, Gloria Falstrom, Siafun Niam, Corey Shop, J.R. Porter, Keith Schaefer, Cristiano Jeromel, Evelyn Brooks, Lois Turley, Amanda Heineck, John Juba, Mary Fitzgibbons, Peter Clark, Matt Kay, Lori Boudreau, Carl Harvey, Sean Davis, Sarah Precourt, Ben Brooks, Kevin Winterstein, and last but definitely not least, Jeff Separan. If you're still here, what are you doing here? Why are you still on the podcast? Go ahead to WebinarCrusher.com. We'll talk to you next time.